Hi there, I'm Dr. Emma DeMarco, and this is the Unmusical Podcast. Today's episode is with award-winning educator and neuromusical researcher, Dr. Anita Collins.
Hi, Anita.
Hi.
I'm so excited to be here in your offices. These posters are amazing.
Welcome. Not many people get to see the space that we actually work in, so welcome to our space that we make all the magic happen.
Yes, this is very, very special, and I'm very, very excited to interview you because I've obviously been following your career and your work for a very long time, as I know a lot of music teachers have. So, look, why don't we start the podcast with a little bit about your journey and your career?
I always get stumped by that question. It's like, okay, do I go chronologically? Do I talk about music teaching? Musically, my career started when I was about 9 and I was given the opportunity to learn how to play clarinet. And that was through a typical band program, a sort of a public school band program. The backstory to that is what leads to this. It's really hard. I learned how to play music and it was I kind of took to clarinet like a duck to water, and I'm physically very suited to it. So I have short fingers and, lots of hot air. But that was the first really time in school that I'd experienced any kind of academic success, but also any kind of recognition for anything.
Yeah.
I was actually, that's Anita and she plays the clarinet.
Yeah.
What had happened prior to that is actually I was struggling enormously with all of my learning. Part of it, a lot of it was to do with the fact that I was struggling how to read properly.
Okay.
I had all these fantastic hiding behaviours so people wouldn't figure out that I couldn't really understand what was written on the page.
So you were hiding, how did you do that?
Oh, all sorts of ways. So I got really, really good at reading people, and especially when you're younger and you have someone reading with you.
Yeah.
And I got really good at pattern recognition. So it's like, this is what the order of the words will probably be in. And then what I do is get to the new word that is often in a book and I'd look at the person sitting next to me and I'd read them. And sometimes people make even
they prepare the syllable.
Prepare the sound and I'd go, it's that word. And then I'd say the word and then I'd read their reaction to go, yes, I got that one right. But that doesn't mean I was reading.
No.
I was reading a person, not reading the book.
Correct.
So I got really, really good at it. And then I got lots of little tricks that I now see other kids do, which is like, oh, can you just say that for me? Or I don't know this one word.
Yeah.
I don't understand what this sentence is. And and people would just naturally read it out for you. So
yes.
I had all these really fantastic ways of doing things which were getting me through, but you can imagine my sense of self as a learner.
Yeah.
I was hiding the whole time, and that's very stressful.
Yes.
And then what happened is I learned to play clarinet, but more importantly, I learned how to read music properly.
Okay.
And now I understand what happened is in my brain it connected the sound to the symbol. And it went, this symbol means this sound.
Yes.
And and music is, there are rules and everything sticks to the rules and nothing changes, and it's like it's a system that makes sense, whereas English is a system where you go, this is mostly the rule most of the time, but then it changes. Then it's like, and my brain couldn't cope with that. So basically what happened is my reading got a lot better after I started to play the clarinet. So not only was I experiencing this thing I was recognised for, my academic achievement and my ability to just engage in school without being terrified got a lot better as well. So it really did, like my life was going this way and then it did a massive left-hand turn and a big wheelie and it went round the corner and really changed the course of my life. So I think my interest in music teaching I was wanting to be a musician. It was third year in my 4-year degree of performance where I went, no, this is not the life for me. And I think it's funny, someone asked me this the other day. She said, I've never heard your origin story. And I went, wow, am I a superhero? This is awesome. But it is my origin story of where I got to now, is that I got to third year and, it's a comparison game when you're doing universities. Like there's a small number in your class, there's a very small number in your year group and you're always comparing. It's like who can do things faster, in clarinet, it's who can tongue faster, who can play the run faster, who can nail it more often.
Yeah.
And I wasn't at the top of that group. I wasn't even in the middle. I was that little person running behind.
Yeah.
Going, I'm trying to keep up.
Practicing as much as I can.
And part of it was I didn't love practicing. And I didn't love the processes. And I often listen to podcasts about sports people, and they talk about I was a trainer, not a competitor. So they loved swimmers are a perfect example. I love swimming. I love just going back up and down. But when it got to competing, that wasn't my thing.
Yeah.
I loved the performing. I did not love the practice and the training. Yeah. So I kind of went, if I'm not going to be the best, do I really want to do this?
Exactly.
And so I kind of decided that I didn't want to. Again, that's always going to be one of my big questions. If I'd pushed myself, would I have been the best? Or did I actually recognise something in myself?
Yeah.
That I could have done differently. And one thing I did notice about people, even now who in my sort of generation have gone through, who've made it, who are earning their living from performing and doing amazing things, that's all they could see themselves doing.
Yes.
They couldn't see any other version of their life.
Yeah.
And my problem was I could see many other versions of my life.
Yeah.
And I went, but I want those ones over there. Yeah. They're really interesting. So yeah, that was a turning point, and that's when I went into teaching, honestly, because my mum was a teacher of little kids, go into teaching until you figure out what you want to do with your life.
Yeah,
and then I got into, I think it was my third week in my teaching degree, and I was sitting in the most boring lecture in the world, but I had this real aha moment, and this literally, that sound of la, and all this the light pulls down onto you, and I had one of those sitting at this boring lecture with this guy who hadn't been in a classroom for 35 years, and I still remember that, going, oh my God, this is what I should be doing. And it was a real godlike vocational being touched by what's your purpose in life. And that was pretty cool. That's really cool.
Amazing.
Yeah, no, and it made everything a lot easier. So then I kept going through, and then I guess the thing that keeps going into my head is what's next, or if I get into something that I can do easily and well, I know it's time to do something different.
Okay.
So it's very much like, what's the next hard thing I have to do?
Like your next mountain to climb.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Okay.
And I think maybe, let's go all the way back to the kid before I was 9 going, I need to find mountains to climb, because actually that's the thing that makes me feel good, but also on the flip side of it, makes me feel worthy. So all that stuff of a young kid going, I'm the dumb one. I'm the one who's not quite getting it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Imagine if you could show your life now to that 9-year-old.
It would be really, really different. But that's why when I go back into schools, I can spot those kids. I can spot the kids that are hiding stuff. I can spot the kids that are going, at any moment I'm going to be found out.
Yeah.
And that's where for me, they need access to music learning, because it could be the thing that gives them their left-hand turn in life.
Yes.
But if it doesn't, I know that it will help them just a little bit in their progress through school. And school's not the greatest, funnest place for most kids.
Not for everyone.
Most kids. I think the people who did love it are the ones who become teachers, and the rest of them are just going, that was school. So that's the thing I think that drives me, is making sure that I know there are kids out there that are just like me, or were just like me, and I know that music has the potential to help them. So how can I make sure that they get access to it in a way that can help?
Yeah. Okay.
There's my origin story, and we're done.
Yeah, I love it. It's an incredible origin story. And, the first thing, as you telling me that, the first thing I want to do is go back to Brisbane and go to one of my students who had a very similar story, who in starting learning saxophone with me saw results improve in his reading and in his English scores. Yeah. And to be able to, he knows who you are. I talk about you with my students, and we've used your resources at school, and your very famous TEDx video as well. Yeah. That's something that my students are really familiar with, and to go, this person actually, look how their life progressed. Yeah, yeah. And he's sort of on the fence at the moment between being a musician and being an architect. So it's might tip him towards the musician.
I don't know. The more people I talk to, so I have this real fascination with people who aren't musicians, but are what I would call musically trained. So people kids who've done 5 or 6 or 7 years of saxophone. They've been in ensembles. They've performed in amazing places. They've gone on tours. They've had all that musical training.
Yeah.
Put their saxophone back in their case. Don't play it again, and that's fine. But then they go on to another career. But what I love is going, how what you learn in music helps you when you design a building or when you talk to, and then like they can articulate it, and those people are fascinating to me because that to me is the missing story.
Yeah.
That you don't do music in school. Very few people do music in school in order to become a musician. That's like this much of the pathway. But how could we impact everyone else's journey through if they were able to have that option of learning music?
Oh, exactly. Okay, so we'll move into the origin of the business now.
Okay.
Yeah, and Bigger, Better Brains.
Oh, God, hard questions.
I know.
That's all right. All right. So I did my PhD, and even that has part of the origin story in that just put yourself in the place of a kid who I still quietly don't think I can read. Like that's a really weird thing.
Even at that point in your life?
Oh, even now. Like every time I pick up text, I have to work hard. Okay. Which is why I do a lot of reading because I feel like it's a muscle rather than just something. So I look at other people, like my husband in particular can read like a book in no time at all, can tell me exactly what the plot was and the interesting bits about the writing style. I would read 3, maybe 4 fiction books a year because I just have to sit there and it's almost like I have to be my own audiobook. I have to say it out loud.
Really?
Yeah, so it's really slow. So I have to work really hard at it, but part of that whole less than 9-year-old kid was I kept studying in order honestly to prove to myself, well probably the world, but then mostly myself, that I could do it. And a PhD is as high as you can get. And I must admit, I got to it's really funny. Last week was 10 years since I got my PhD. And we went out to dinner and it was like, this is something to celebrate. It's really important. Yeah. But there's a real sadness in me that I've reached the end of my formal study journey. It's almost like I want to be that crazy person who does too, but I'm not going to do that because it's that point where you can't go any further. You're done.
No. Yeah, you've reached the highest level. You're good.
It's like now how am I going to prove it? But what happened was I was working at university. I was working in teacher education.
Yeah.
I was also still a practicing music teacher. So I would go to band at 7 o'clock in the morning and then I'd head off to my lectures, by 9:30 and then I'd do all of those. And I loved walking into like my Monday morning lecture with the music teachers and go, right, I did this in rehearsal this morning. It didn't work. Let's talk about why. Yeah. What did I do wrong? And then they would come and watch me work as well and then work in class as well. So I liked that. But I was I always wanted to do it, but I was sort of forced to do a PhD because they changed the rules.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you could have a master's and work in university and now you have to have a PhD to work in university. So they went, for those people who are already in a university but don't have a PhD, you kind of get this, as long as you started, by a certain, you had these little waypoints as like you have to have got this far. Yeah. So I went, okay, I wanted to do it anyway, a couple of years earlier than I thought, but, let's go with that. Then I was given 2 bits of advice. This all comes to the business. Okay. I will tell you why, because it is that origin story. One person or a couple of people said, do something that everyone else has researched, that's been done to death.
Interesting.
Put your lens over it and do it as quickly as possible. And I went, okay. And then another person said, choose something that you're going to love as much at the end as you did at the beginning.
It's a long time to be doing one thing.
It's a long time, and about 2/3 of the way through you go, I don't want to do this anymore. Like you just there's no love left. There's no fun. It's just this is hard grind. Yeah. And it's really, really difficult. So I took the second one because the first one was like dead boring to me. Yeah. So what I did is I read everything I could lay my hands on for 9 months, like no filter. I just read everything about music learning, music education, teacher training, everything I possibly could. I just pick it up and I was waiting for the same light moment to hit me with this thing to go, okay, this is what you should study. And I was waiting for that absolute moment. Okay. It came in a really weird way. And that I was reading it and I was 6 months into this process and I was really doubting my process. It's like, maybe I'm just stuffing around in a swamp of research. And then what happened is I read this article by someone who would have been a trailblazer for what I currently do, which is reading the research, translating it, figuring out how it might apply in the education classroom and rehearsal room, and then helping teachers to understand it. He was sort of one of those people. And it was this article, it wasn't even a research article, it was kind of an interview, long form interview article. And halfway through he went, I'm going to interview 4 neuroscientists and I'm going to ask them, and the question was, what do you think music teachers should know about the work that you do?
Okay.
Anyway, great question.
Really good question.
I love it. And I was like, oh, this is fantastic. Anyway, I was reading and reading and reading, and I found myself internally getting more and more angry, and like my temperature went up, and I could feel that thing of like, you know, when you like, you're rising up and all that. And I was like, why am I? And I came to the end and I went, I don't need to know any of that, but I would like to know this, 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 and this. And so that was my light moment of going, oh, maybe I should do this. But it took me a little while because I did walk away being super angry at it. And then I went, oh, maybe. So I thought about that for a bit. And then my trickiness was I was a music teacher trying to read the very recent neuroscientific research and then apply it into the context of music teaching when no one else had done it.
Yeah.
And not only no one else had done it, no PhD supervisor had done it. So it was kind of like,
how do you get a supervisor?
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like, here's my idea. And so I actually went back to my master's supervisor, who was Robin Stevens.
Yeah.
And he went, tricky. It's like, great, thanks. And then he sort of sat with it for a bit, and then he wrote back to me and said, you should talk to this person.
Okay.
And she knows nothing about it, but she has the capacity to guide you through the process, but you're going to have to do the hard lifting with the actual content because that's not her field.
Yeah.
And then what happened is we got a secondary supervisor who knew a little bit more about the field.
Yes.
Who weirdly I never even met until after I'd finished my PhD. It was all done by email.
That's so wild.
I know, which was great. And then, so they just – and it was a real entry into we don't know this stuff. You're going to have to come up with processes and ways of verifying what it is that you found, and we will guide you through the process, but it's really up to you. Yeah. So, again, no pathway. No, like, do this, then do this, then do this. No. It was just all just go this way. So, anyway, went through that process, had a baby in the middle, which, you know, you don't plan to have children. There's no good time. But I still remember how pregnant was I? I think it was the last week I was allowed to fly. So I must have been 6 or 7 months pregnant. Yeah. And I had to go down and do my confirmation in Melbourne, which is where I got my PhD from. And I actually didn't pass it. And it was one of those big.
Oh my gosh.
Not that you can hit a pregnant woman in the tummy, but it was like a big
kick in the guts.
Kick in the guts for like, oh my God, what am I doing with my life? I'm about to give birth to a child and then doing this thing. Anyway. Oh my gosh. But yeah, it was this really interesting thing and I've written about it, this experience of I was giving birth to a baby in my brain, which was my PhD, and a baby with my body, which was the baby. Yeah. And I went, these two can't coexist and you can't get rid of the baby, so you have to do the PhD as quickly as you can. Yeah. So I sort of just went hell for leather and kept doing that. It ended up being called Bigger, Better Brains. And then it had this like description that comes afterwards, neuroscience and generalist teachers and all this stuff. But I kept writing in the margins going, musicians' brains are bigger, musicians' brains are better. And it was just this thing that stuck. Yeah. And then finished that, and there's a grief that comes after finishing a PhD. It's really like, oh my God, what do I do now? Yeah. And I was kind of in that lost state, and then I was trying – I love telling this story. I was trying to avoid my university marking. I was literally like, I can't do it. There's so many things I've got to mark. I don't want to do it.
I feel like every uni student ever is feeling so seen right now. They're like, I knew it. I knew they didn't want to mark it.
We go through pain too. We set these things, but not for fun.
Oh, my God.
So I was avoiding it. It was a Thursday afternoon, I still remember, and there's an online thing. I don't know if it still exists, but for TED education – there's an open pitch thing, and you go, what do you want to write about? What's your idea? What do you want to do? Give us like 100 words. And you just put it in, and I was avoiding my mark. So I went, I reckon we should make a little video for teenagers to go, this is what's happening in your brain when you practice on a musical instrument.
Yeah, perfect.
Great. Again, well, I think I then went and washed the sheets. I then went and cleaned the
job.
kitchen.
Yeah.
I did everything I could. Anyway, I came back to – and I got an email back and they said, we quite like your idea. Can we have an interview?
Yeah.
It's like, okay. So, and they only do interviews in this – and they're in New York. So it was like this small period of time when the times matched up. And they went, we'll do like just a 15-minute chat.
Okay.
Anyway, got on, didn't know who I was talking to. And I just went, I think this is the idea. This is the field of, I've just finished a PhD in this. I think it's something that kids and teachers should know about, What I didn't know at the time is they get, at that time, it's probably twice as much now, they get sort of 350, 400 pitches every single week.
Oh, wow.
And out of those, they pick 5 to interview. There's my finger. And then from there, from the 5, they may or may not pick 1 to go to the next stage. But I didn't know
They are insane
I just went,
odds.
I know. And I went, okay, so, and they went, this is a good idea. Do you think you could write us maybe 600 words about it?
Okay.
I went, yeah, sure. Again, not really thinking it through. And the next Monday or Tuesday after the Friday, I sat down at a cafe and I started writing this 600 words.
Yeah.
What I ended up actually writing was the entire script. And I went, I've gone a bit over, but I think this is what it would be. So I wrote it as if it was the script, sent it off. Yeah. I went, this is really good. We're going to move ahead. Again, no idea.
Yeah, no idea.
I went, okay. Again, all done by email. Yeah. And then the one time I went, maybe I'm into something here, was they sent me the bio of the animator.
Okay.
And I clicked on the link and it said, Academy Award winning animator. And I went, whoa.
That's huge.
That was the one point where I went, maybe I'm into something bigger than I think I'm into.
Slightly bigger deal than.
Yeah. And this is all leading towards that fact because the video kind of put the idea of this research on the map for music educators because neuroscientists were using it and it was great and that was teaching them how – it was a tool they were using to understand how the brain learnt in general.
Yes, okay.
Music bit didn't matter. It was just like, here's a cool thing that we've accidentally found that helps us understand how the brain actually learns. So this could be good for everything. But I went, hang on a second, you're researching the stuff we do every day.
Yeah.
You could help us. And then they made the video and the video came out. But what really got me, and this is not I always feel like it's not blowing my own trumpet. It's more about saying the world was ready.
Yeah.
It went out and I went, that's cool, that's cute. And then I still remember watching, there's a live counter on the TED site.
Yeah, how many views?
Yeah,
right?
and I opened it and this live counter's like ticking over like crazy, hits 1 million in 2 days, it hits 2 million.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God. And then people are writing to me and going, this was great. And suddenly, but it was very much, I think, feeding into something that this was something everyone needed to know about.
Yeah.
And even neuroscientists were like, maybe our work has more implication outside of the work that we do. And that's what I'm really pleased with is they continue to feed their work out in a way that educators can understand. So Bigger, Better Brains came from that. The TEDx talk came from the TED Ed video. Did that scariest thing. Talk about performing. Scariest thing I did in my life.
Yeah, I mean.
Standing on the red dot. Nothing else is scary after that. It's like...
I can only I've seen people talk about how they prepare and how they have speech writers and can you give us a little insight into your?
So this is another thing is like I didn't much care. So the problem is as an academic particularly, and TED was not quite new, but it was really gaining momentum.
Yeah,
and so we were starting to use a lot of TED Talks as. We would put them on and we'd actually get the students to debate the ideas and they were really useful. So I understood the power of them.
Yeah.
But what I was more interested in, I'd been to 2 TED days. I went to one in Melbourne and one in Sydney. And as a music teacher, I was like the ideas were great and the people presenting was great, but I was way more interested in how do you get someone who is a expert in colour theory as it relates to decision-making paradigms sound interesting, and then 20 minutes later you get someone who comes on and talks about schizophrenia and their brother and how they then found the neuroreceptor which worked with it. Like, how do you do that with people who are experts in their field but not public speakers? So I was super interested in the process behind, because I felt as a music teacher and as a performer, actually my performing stuff came in, which is to go, I can get up and talk, but how are you going to get me from here to here? And what's more, because you go through with a cohort, the people who the people who are presenting on the day, you get to know, and I'm still friends with many of them. You get to know them really, really well, and you go through the process together. And they were wildly different people. It's like, how are you going to take this person who's this, talking about chickens and saving chickens from battery farms and what you do? Like, how do you get him to be, to present his idea, and then how do you – anyway. So I was really fascinated. So you get a coach and you get a speaking coach.
Yes.
I still speak to my speaking coach today, and her voice is in my head when I prepare anything.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. She's
Huge
always
impact.
there.
Yeah.
But they're not really speaking coaches. Honestly, they're psychologists. They help you find your voice.
Yeah.
And feel free to use your voice and what I don't mean by voice is this thing. It's actually, what's my idea worth sharing? What's my idea? What's my way of seeing the world that other people will be interested in?
Yes.
Because I will speak it in such a way and share it in such a way that makes it interesting.
Yeah.
And so while they coach you through the speech, they're actually coaching you as a person.
Yes.
So she was an incredible left-hand turn for me, because it's like, I can actually move people and speak in a way that can help them shift their thinking, or help them feel better about something, or help them find their own voice and place. So she did that for me, and then on my give back to that whole experience is actually, how do I help other people to do that and do it in a way that they don't realise it's being done. It's not a technique. It's how do I help them find their own voice and power and all those sorts of things. And Bigger Better Brains, excellent. I came round. There we go. We're there. There we are. Bigger Better Brains, the company, came out of that idea that I was given all these opportunities. I was given incredible opportunities to learn things, and I want to be there to help the community. The community for me are music teachers, but also the larger education community, to really understand where music sits for every child, what's its place and purpose, how do we move from where we are to where we need to go, and how do we change opinions and myths and things that are sitting underneath the surface about who should learn music, why they should learn music, and how it impacts human development, not just musicians on stage.
Yes,
so
definitely.
That's where they all came to. And then, again, there's no pathway. There's no one else is doing this. No. So we're just grappling around in the dark going, well, we'll try this and see what happens. Yes. And it's just a lot about listening to our community, seeing how they react, understanding what they need, trying stuff out. If it doesn't work, that's okay. Yeah. Move fast, break stuff,
Amazing.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a great
attitude. How it is.
Amazing. And I mean, obviously you've moved into like more of a business sphere by owning your own company that's doing all these amazing projects. Did you feel prepared to be a business person?
Oh my God, no. I actually took probably 2 years to introduce myself as a small business person. Like, really? I wouldn't even use the words. I'd say I'm a music teacher who happens to be trying to make some money on the side and do some good work through a business portal. Like,
it's a long intro.
No idea. It's terrible. Whereas only recently, and it's still this sort of evolving, I feel like it's like a flower that continues to open. I've only really started to go, actually, I know a lot about business and sales and marketing, but for a greater good. It's not, and that's where the tricky thing is. We're not a not-for-profit, which is about doing good work, but not making profit. We're not a business that's just there to make money. We're somewhere sitting in between. So I've had to seek out a lot of thinkers and speakers and books and people, a lot of them overseas. We don't have it's not a massive way of working here in Australia that I have found yet. I haven't found my tribe here, so I've had to go and search for them overseas.
Yeah.
That really knows how to do that good work with purpose and truly do that, as opposed to say that on the outside.
Yeah.
And then still just be making money. So ours is to make money to support the work that we do.
Yeah.
And to keep expanding. And that's the other part of it, is to keep getting bigger.
Yeah, of course. You need to have projects that are not losing money if you want to expand as a business. So.
Everyone needs to eat. And this is why COVID was very bad.
I mean, how did that go for you guys?
Well, our trickiness was 2018 into 2019 were like burst onto the scene.
Yes.
Huge number of people coming to our courses. Everything was like financially, everything was fantastic. We were like up. We had this massive trajectory. We're going to make huge changes in 2020.
Okay.
And then the world shut down.
Yes.
And the world shut down from a financial business point of view, from a sort of when people actually felt comfortable to buy things, go to things, all that, 2 years, probably 2 years and a few more months after that, before everyone kind of went, yeah, you know what, we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
So holding on during that time was very hard, and pivoting and changing and keeping the lights on and keeping people employed. That was as low as it got, which is that make payroll every month. That's it. And then anything from there is cream, which is great. But that's a lot of stress to go through.
That's huge.
Yeah. But it's, in some ways, I always try and find what was good about it. And it was that we got to really understand who we were, but also be very agile and respond to our community, rather than going, we think we're going this way and we think you should follow, as opposed to, we're going to go this way. Would you like to come?
Yes.
If you don't want to come, that's okay. Maybe we should go a different direction. Or we still believe in this, but if we change it a bit, maybe, it'll be more helpful. So, like 2 markets have just opened up to us, which is the US and the UK, and very different. And very different to Australia, but ones that are really interesting to go, okay, what do you need? How can we help? And that's constantly what we're saying.
Amazing. So with owning this business and with growing and doing all these projects, what skills do you kind of wish you had going into it? Because obviously we talk a lot about musicians needing business skills just in performing and in everything that we do. But, I mean, you've gone the business route. So if you could go back and do a quick course in something, would it be QuickBooks? I don't know.
No. I think marketing and sales, which are 2 different things.
Okay.
And I also think there's an extra rub in there for musicians or artists in general, in that I still believe what I'm doing is educating, and educating shouldn't come at a cost. And that's the tricky thing. We should all be allowed to be educated, but in order to keep that education going, you have to have cost attached to it. Yeah. And I think as an artist, we struggle with, I make art, which is I believe my education is an art form, so therefore it kind of crosses over. So then there's the issue that we should just be valued for the art we produce, and we shouldn't have to sell it. So there's this tension between feeling like we're selling ourselves versus we're actually here to help. And it's a tricky different thing. So I think the biggest thing I've learned is about sales and marketing. Marketing I was getting better at. Now sales are things that I really understand and the mechanisms behind that. Again, didn't call myself a business person for 2 years. Didn't really recognise we were an online company for 2 or 3 years either.
Really?
Yeah, I know. It was like, I just thought, we've got a website, it sells some things, as opposed to going, no, we're an online company, which means we need robust platforms and tech help and graphics and all of these things, and getting help with getting the right people to do that. And that doesn't mean someone who has a marketing degree, a sales degree, a graphics degree, an IT degree. Yeah. It means finding people who are really excited about doing the what's next.
Yes.
Actually, wow, that's a really good it come around again. Now I realise what I've made. They don't necessarily have formal training, but they have this real interest in going, I don't know how to do that. Let's learn how to do that. Yes. And having the confidence, again, to make mistakes, to try it, to go, it's not working, can we go a different direction? So we are a very small team, but a team that's built of those people who are going, what if we tried to do this? We don't know how to do this, but we'll try and figure it out. And we're in that place at the moment. We're trying to figure out a really, really big project, and it's driving us nuts. We're in the messy middle. But
okay.
It's okay. It'll come out.
That's also the bit you look back on with fondness, you know, when it's done.
When one day, I might be on a business podcast to talk about business. I can go, right, here's the messy middle.
Yeah, exactly.
what we did. Yeah.
Oh, look, amazing. Can we step into your advocacy work? Because what I'm particularly interested in is how, you know, you're quoted quite a lot as saying you want to make music educators their own advocates and to help them be advocates in their own spaces and communities.
Yeah.
But what is that like for you? You know, you mentioned a little earlier that you try and kind of help people find their voice without them knowing
they find their voice, yeah.
So, like, what does that look like for you and how does that process work for you?
Me as individual, or how do I help others to find that?
A little bit of both would be great. Yeah.
There's a little saying I've been so because of the fact that I am not a fantastic reader and I'm not a fantastic writer, I have to work very hard to write well. So I'm forging a way of finding, which is hilarious when someone goes, would you like to write a book? And I'm going, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like, I'm not a good writer.
I never would have guessed based on your huge output of speaking and presenting and writing.
No, I'm not very good at it. I still need to work. So what's really interesting about that is this is why I love doing talking things, because my gems come out when I speak. And then I go, catch that, and write it down. But one of the ones I've been using recently is an idea of saying, I want to help you, meaning the music teachers, to help others to understand the value that you bring.
Okay.
So that's that roundabout.
Yeah.
Being an advocate without going, I need to stand up and shout. Because music teachers, strangest breed on the planet, love them to bits. They can get up in front of 300 voice choir, 80-piece orchestra. They can put those two things together and get up and just embody this Napoleonic kind of leader. It's like, just follow me, it will all be fine.
Yeah.
But ask them to get up in front of 6 people on a board and the principal of the school to say, this is why the work I do is important, and they melt.
Yeah.
They just don't want to do it. It's like, hang on, half an hour or so, guys, you do that. And take any of those people from the board or the principal out and say, now you go and do what I just did. They'll go, no way.
Yeah.
So what is it that, we do on stage? What do we channel when we're in rehearsal and we're on stage and even teaching a class that makes us be able to do it? And how can I help others to recognise that they can just transfer that across? And a lot of it is imposter syndrome and not feeling like an authentic communicator. And I also think, again, that itchy skin feeling of, I shouldn't have to fight for what I do because why don't you understand the value of what I do?
Correct.
So there's all those things play together and I don't address them individually, I address them in the one person and then go, okay, how do I help you, being the individual you are, feel or know the value of what you do? Because this is the thing that makes me go, believe in what I'm doing, but also fires me up to do it more. Yeah. I'll share it. There's always stories. Stories are the best way to do it.
Stories are the best part.
I was at the National Music Teacher Mentoring they had a conference for 2 days and I got to be there for kind of half a day, which was awesome. Yeah. And, you can imagine the energy in the room was like, bing, these people were so excited. And it was just after COVID and it was like, we're all back together, we're singing. Yeah. Singing is no longer a deadly weapon.
I know.
We can do it. And they were so happy and so excited. And I had a talk with them. I got to present about advocacy. And then in the evening, I did the hardest and weirdest dinner speech I've ever done, which is kind of in a public restaurant but in a side part with a weird microphone.
Okay.
It was strange.
Random diners just listening in.
I know, it's very weird. But they were all on the edge of their seat and it was this moment of when something happens in the music and go, oh my God, we're there.
Yes.
It's flow state, basically. Yes. And team flow state is even more amazing than single flow state. But there was a moment where they were all leaning in, everyone was quiet, everyone was watching, hearts were open. It's like, there you are, I've got you. It's that one moment. So it was beautiful. But there was a lady in there who went back to her school the next week and she was called into the principal's office and the principal basically was saying, we're going to let you go.
Oh my gosh.
I know. She had no warning. There was nothing, nothing. She went in, and I saw her a few weeks later, and this is where I got the story from. Basically, she went, no, And she took all of this stuff. She attributes it to what I was talking about. She took all of this stuff and saying, this is the value of what I bring to the school. This is how valuable I am to you. This is why the kids need me. This is why the teachers, this is why you need me.
Yep.
You can't do this. To which the principal went, and this I would want to go across the punch him, went, I didn't think you'd put up such a fuss. But, you make some good points. No, you can stay. And it's like, my God.
I mean, someone get HR.
I know.
Right.
It was just wrong. But when I saw her a couple of weeks later, she barreled up to, and it's really funny. I've had this a few times when I go, someone makes a beeline for you with an energy and something to tell you that is so vital to them. And it's, I know at that moment, for me, I have to be in, it doesn't matter what's going on around me.
Yeah.
Walls could be falling down. I have to be there for that person. Anyway, she explained this story and she just went, you gave me everything. You gave me my job. You gave me my future. You gave me and she also said, I felt possessed.
Oh my gosh.
She said, I couldn't actually stop myself from doing it. She went into an altered state where she just rambled this stuff out and went, you just can't do this.
Yeah.
And again, I didn't even get to speak to her personally, but it's something about creating that situation where it's nothing new to the teachers. It's just putting them back in touch with it again and going, hang on, this is why I do what I do.
Yep.
And it's okay to help other people see the value of that because they're coming from a place of, it's not ignorance, that's because that has a very laden word, but it's a lack of understanding.
Yeah.
And it's a lack of experience. We live in this world of music and also we've lived in it since most of us were very young.
Yes.
We have a view of the world that most other people don't have.
Correct.
And it's like, how do we help them into that view of the world?
Yeah.
And it doesn't even matter if that was just the only time that had happened to me. I would have gone, I'm pushing forward, this is important.
Yeah.
But it happens, 10 times a year. And it can happen in emails, it can happen in people seeing me, it can happen in all sorts of different ways. Lots of social media people would just relate this massive story to me.
Yeah.
And that's the value of it. When it all comes down to it, it's helping a group of people who do amazing work to believe in themselves, to continue to want to do that work and to make it just that little bit easier for them.
Oh, I mean, that's an incredible mission.
Yeah.
I
like it. Again, roaming around in the messy dark, have no idea what we're doing, but we're trying hard.
Wow. I mean, so do you have any stories from your teaching days of having to advocate, or were you lucky to work in schools where you felt valued?
Oh, no. From my teaching? No. I had some pretty big doozies and I still see myself as a teacher. So I still work as a teacher. I was at rehearsal yesterday morning. I'm going back today to do HSC marking.
So just I'm a little bit busy.
Yeah. I'm still a practicing teacher. I'm practicing my craft. But I've had some doozies. I've watched people that I admire and love to bits and be treated awfully and have left the profession or have had to leave the city, or all sorts of things have happened. And it's that kind of thing where for each one of them, they're the ones that fuels me to go, no, we need to keep helping people understand this. Yeah. And a lot of it it's like a campaign of changing minds and hearts, but also informing and just helping people to and not seeing those people who don't understand as not being worthy.
No.
It's just they haven't had that experience. And I'm sad for them that they haven't had it. But let me show you a little bit of what it's like.
Yes.
And what happens is they change fundamentally as educators and people and parents and everything else when they actually have even the smallest experience of it.
Yeah.
It was really funny. Can I tell you a story?
Yes,
because this has been playing on my mind. So finally I got to go, and the team of us went. I actually said, let's go to this thing. So pub choir was on in Canberra. Was it this week? No, last week. I've still got the song going in my head. Yes. And and I've always wanted to. So Astrid, who runs pub choir, is a choral teacher. Yes. And I've been following her, and I've had the opportunity to speak to her a couple of times, and I wrote an article about how she influences me, and I posted it, and so there's lots of communication between us. Anyway, I wanted to go along, so I wanted to take the team along, the two incredible people I work with, and because they had never experienced it before. One is musically trained, one is not musically trained.
Okay.
I wanted them to go to have that experience, but I wanted to go to watch what she did.
Okay.
And go, okay,
Yes.
what do you do that gets 2,000 people
Yep.
to sing vaguely in tune in 3 parts?
Yes, which is the wildest part, I think, about that.
I know.
3 parts.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted. I wanted to go, okay, what do you do and what do you take from your music training? It's back to that. What do you take from your music training that is doing this? Because I've watched the videos, and all you get is the great happy performance at the end. It's like,
yes,
I like that, but I want the other bit.
I want the process.
It's the coaching part of the TED Talk. It's like, I want to know what goes on in there. And it was fascinating because so much of it was like, if I just took the 2,000 people out of Llewellyn Hall and gave you 2,000 primary school kids, you would have got the same result. Yeah. Because basically all she did is took what we would do in a rehearsal with really annoying 9 and 10-year-olds and she used it with adults. She added in a couple of very adult jokes, which were hilarious.
Of course.
She was a comedian on stage. She's got a shtick on stage, which is fantastic. But all she's really doing is taking what happens in a rehearsal into the public sphere and doing it with adults. Now, what's interesting to me is all she's doing is transferring the music learning process into that public space because the public don't ever get to see that bit, and that's the bit where the magic happens.
Yes, exactly.
So, I think one of our worst things is and I often say this to educators, we shoot ourselves in the foot because we show the shiny performance at the end where nothing seems to go wrong, even though we know it does.
Yeah.
It all seems perfect. The kids know what they're doing. You know, we sit in the audience. It's no work for us because we're being entertained by these lovely children.
Yes.
But we don't show people the time, the effort, the sweat, the tears, the possible could crash and burn that happens prior to that that makes the shiny performance.
Yes.
So what she did is she showed the messy middle but she also did it in a way that people didn't feel excluded from music learning. Because the vision, this is what I was, you don't see this on the video, but now you see the visuals and you go, oh, I get what you're doing. That's really clever. And then she's also a very good arranger. So she can pick pieces and pick them in, not only in being in the right range, but she has all these little tricks in between.
Yes.
That means you don't get lost in the music. And say if you've got to go down or you've got to keep a note but you're not singing it, she does these little things. It's like, oh, that's clever. But that's what we do in a rehearsal.
Yes, of course.
So and then she's got this sense on stage and these extra. So it's a very, very good show.
Yes.
But what got to me is the fact that we don't show people the music learning process.
Yes, I agree.
And what Don't Stop the Music did, which was the documentary.
Yes.
Because so I got to the end of it. I got to the big show at Perth Concert Hall.
Yes.
And people were coming up to me afterwards and going, oh my God, the kids were so amazing. I can't believe they did that. And I was in this really weird space of going, but of course they did.
Yeah.
Like, what did you expect? And I went, hang on. Think about that. And then I went, oh, no, I see this process happen 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 times a year.
Yeah.
They've never seen it before.
Yep.
So it looks like magic.
Yeah.
So actually where the problem is what the documentary did is show the process in the middle, which is what people fell in love with.
Yeah.
The shiny performance at the end is just you've got to have an end point and you've got to have a part where you go, oh, that's great, that's lovely, we've got the nice end.
Yes.
But actually what we fell in love with is the kids going through the ups and the downs and the teachers going through the ups and the downs. That was a real human story. So how do we as music educators show that story? And that's what Astrid did. Astrid gave them a little tiny piece of that experience. It helps that everyone's allowed to have a beer beforehand.
Of course,
so everyone feels really comfy and they go, okay, and I'm just a little bit less inhibited about singing. And then she tells all these jokes about, you know, when everyone sings and how they feel and she gives words and names and feelings and emotions to the reticence to sing and the fact that we're becoming vulnerable.
Yes.
And so a lot of that is, well, she never says the word vulnerable. She underpins it all with, I'm putting you in a vulnerable space. But follow me, I'm Napoleon, I will lead you, just trust me. So I think that's what I would love to see is us being able to do more things in schools, doing more things with the public that can go and actually naming it. This is the music learning process.
Yes.
This is where the magic happens.
Yeah.
I should put that in a T-shirt.
You should. You've just got your new merch line.
I know, exactly. Oh, we're designing T-shirts all the time.
Yes. I think it's so interesting for you to bring that up. And while you were talking, I was thinking of an experience I had with a beginner band a few years back, early in my career, where, parents were really shocked at how good the beginner band sounded at the end of the year. And they're like, I'm hearing my kid at home, but altogether this band, it was pretty good.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, let me show you the best part, because I always like to record the first rehearsal with my bands every year.
This. Yeah.
I mean, mostly for the kids. We don't publish it anywhere. It's just for the kids and I to have a nice moment. And it's still something I do, even though I'm not in a primary school. In a high school I work at, we have a second study ensemble.
Yeah.
So, kids are learning a second instrument and we'll try and play something and record it.
Yeah.
And showing just the look on that parent's face when I showed them the recording from the first rehearsal.
Yeah. It's like,
and they were like, wait, they've done all of that? Like they've gotten what? Like how? And it was, you're right. It's like magic. It's parents are just impressed by this magic we
Yeah, but we need to show them it's not magic. It's just learning.
And that's the thing, like you talk a lot about how you communicate with teachers to advocate for themselves, but how do you talk to parents, or how do you help teachers talk to parents?
Oh, that's two different things. Okay. Parents, so for me, there's no one really understands what this thing is. So all I'm trying to do is trying to bring it together and go, okay, what is it?
Yeah.
And what is the nature of it? So part of it, what I'm finding is that there's these underpinnings of what I call myths.
Okay.
There are these beliefs that are sitting underneath that we don't even know we have until you raise them and go, oh, yeah. And often they're through questions. Yeah. It's like, who should learn music? Oh, kids that are interested. How do they get interested? Oh, they just become interested. It's like, who should learn music? Kids who are talented. How do you know if they're talented? Well, they start playing an instrument and they're really, really good. Are they the only ones that get to learn it? Oh, no, they should learn it for fun, but only until they're not talented anymore. Like there's all these weird beliefs sitting underneath that I think are the things we need to raise up to go, let's sit there and look at that myth and figure out why we have it and how it is either contributing to the education of our kids or actually detracting from it.
Okay.
And so part of it is that. So with parents, I use a lot of what Astrid does, which is I tell lots of jokes, and lots of things like, right, who thinks they can sing? And they all keep their hands down. It says, who thinks they can sing in the shower when no one else is home? Me!
Yeah.
It's like, all right, why do we have this belief? And then and again, I raise them up and sort of like, who should learn music? What instruments should they learn? Because I get a really important question, which is, what's the best instrument to learn for cognitive development?
That is an interesting
It is an interesting question. The answer I come back with, whatever instrument your child is interested in love with, thinks is cool, it doesn't matter. Because what comes after that is the music learning process that takes them through that. It doesn't matter if it's ukulele or tuba. Yeah. As long as they go through the process that comes after, the actual instrument doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And they struggle with that idea because it's like, I put my kid into piano. Piano is the hardest instrument, therefore it should be the best. And I'm saying, sorry. No. So talking directly to parents, so part of it is breaking down the walls a little bit with parents. I do that so that music teachers in the schools themselves can come in a little bit later and keep that process going, demystifying the process. When it comes to teachers talking to parents, part of it is not building them up, but revealing to them that it's okay to talk about the value of what they do.
Yes, okay.
So that's part, but then also saying it's okay. So where are parents coming from? And ultimately coming from, they want to make the right decisions for their children.
Yes.
However, the behaviours they exhibit with that intention behind it can sometimes not be really easy to deal with. Okay, it's the whole, Sally's not having fun on saxophone anymore, she's going to give up. But by the way, thanks for the great concert you just gave us.
Yeah.
So it's like, hang on, they've said that, but there's a whole bunch of stuff that comes behind that. Why does music always have to be fun? Because the music learning process, not fun most of the time.
Yeah.
But we have this idea, again, it's a mix-up. We choose to listen to music because it makes us feel good. So therefore learning how to make that music must also be good. And it's like they're totally different experiences.
Yeah.
And part of it is we keep using the word music, and I think we should go music learning, music listening, music experiences. And if we use those 3 definitions, we might get a little bit further.
And we can separate out what it means to do them and what it feels like to do them. And okay.
And for me, school leaders, principals in particular, are probably the worst at that. They go music, that's singing the national anthem in assembly, but that's also having music as the bell changes, which a lot of schools have now, as well as singing in choir, as well as a kid who goes off to his violin lesson, in the middle of the day. And they go, that's all music. And it's like, no, they're all very different parts of an art form, and they have very different impacts on the brain. And for me, the brain research just opens up a new way to speak about that and a new way to understand it.
Yeah.
But it's a very long process. It's an education process. Doesn't happen overnight.
No.
So it's something you have to keep going at. So my hope is that just by modelling a whole bunch of different ways of doing it, teachers can go, I like that way and that way suits me.
Yes.
Some people are shouters. Some people are like, from the top of the hill, I'm going to tell you all what you should think. And that's great. They're fantastic. But also a whole bunch of people are very quiet.
Yes.
And they need to advocate in a different way. And that might even be something that we've dubbed stealth advocacy, which is all the posters you can see behind you, which is, I'm just going to put that up on the wall. Yeah. I'm going to let you pass it 100 times, and then the 101st time you're going to stop and you're going to ask a question, and then I'm going to be there. So that's a point of advocacy. Yeah. So there's what I would call on the fly or in the moment advocacy. Yeah. There's planned advocacy, which is getting up in front of the board. And there's also ongoing advocacy, which is every school concert has to have something, even if it's a video, a speech that you write for the school principal to say in front of the parents.
That's a good idea. I like that one.
Even if it's even better when a student gets up and says, "This is what's happening in my brain when I'm playing in the band."
Oh wow!
I know that has power in it because it's like out of the mouths of babes. That needs to be the ongoing advocacy because it is truly an education process, and that process takes time. Yeah.
Oh, incredible. Amazing. And I think you've already given some ideas to people listening. If they haven't engaged with your work so far, they can already go hassle their principals to go speak at their next concert.
Sometimes it's not hassling. So another thing I've been talking to a lot of people recently is like, and because I work with principals, because I want to understand their mindset and I want to understand how they're approaching their jobs and how they see music. Yep. And a principal who is very dear to my heart said to me one day, she said, imagine this was your professional life every day. She said, imagine if everyone who came towards you wanted something and that most of the time you have to say no. I went, oh, that's not a nice way to live your life. And she went, to the point where there's some days you don't want to come out of your office because you just can't say no to another person.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So stopping for a moment going, they're humans, they're not two-dimensional sort of beings that you go, you don't want to give me what I want. Sometimes actually being the music teacher is asking nothing of them but actually giving something back. So taking the best one I've heard of recently, a little kid who really struggles with attention in class. Yeah. Year 2, I think, on violin, you can imagine, all over the shop. But she took a little video of him and he played a piece through and he stood in the right way and he played it and he watched and he did all these behaviours that never been seen before. And all she did was in the morning tea room, principal was making a cup of tea. She just sidled up and went, hey, check out what just happened, showed the video, gave a present, gave a wonderful experience to that principal to go, look what like this kid who you see every single day in your office because they hit someone in the playground every single day. Wow. But look at the change, and then just went away. Yeah. Didn't ask for anything, just said, no, let me give you a present. Let me give you an experience and a regrounding of why you do what you do. Yes. And that is something that we can do in music because kids are so good like that. We can take pictures, we can do video, we can, it doesn't have to be the big come to rehearsal and see what we do. Sometimes it's just the little stuff. And that works for parents too.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Well, Anita, thank you so much for everything we've talked about in your past. I am very curious if there's anything you're working on for the future that you'd like to share, or is it all a bit hush-hush at the moment?
No, it's not hush-hush. It's just hard. It's just so hard. One of the things that I've had the great opportunity this year to work with the Victorian government and on a project which they went, how can we create something that teachers, generalist teachers, who are in most part responsible for music education in the classroom, but are not well trained and are even more than that, are incredibly fearful. Like, the idea of saying get up and sing in front of your class is asking them to climb K2 and then fly. It's just and you can, and I can, for me, I can see and feel their. It is really like you're asking me to do something that is impossible, and I don't like that they're in that situation. But creating a tool online that they can go through and go, actually, how much musical knowledge do I have? And then what sort of musical skills do I have? But breaking it down in such a way that you can get a picture at the end or a report at the end that kind of goes, you're really confident and good at this, but this is the one you're really struggling with. That's an opportunity for, any national mentoring program, Music Viva, another music teacher at the school could come in and say, can I help you with this little thing?
Yeah.
And that got me thinking about, could there be ways that we could help school leaders? And I was super lucky to get a grant from the Churchill Trust to do this, which is to go, is there a way we could help principals assess their music program, particularly because most principals don't have a musical background, to then have a tool to go, all right, in my 3-year school improvement plan, the first thing we need to do, because I did this little test and it tells me that these things need to be improved, I need a space. Where can I find a space for music learning in my school? What could I do? Or my teachers are really inexperienced at music teaching. Maybe we could focus for the next 1 to 2 years on a music learning program that capacity builds them.
Okay.
So helping them make the right next decision.
Yes.
Or the next right decision.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
My syntax going all over the place. To do the next thing. So a lot of the things I'm finding is that people go, music's important. So we've managed to start to change that narrative.
Okay.
But then they don't know what to do next.
Yes.
They don't know how to fix it, change it, improve it. It's like, and hang on, there's heaps of people out there who know, but how can I get you to the point, being the school leader or a teacher, to go, this is what I need to, this is my next one single step that I need to do.
Okay.
So it doesn't sound as exciting as going out and doing speeches and writing and stuff like that. It's not as public, but I feel like it could have more systemic impact.
Yes.
We could actually change from the inside.
Yes.
So, and what I'm excited about is I've just been over to the UK and sort of talked about this possibility, and they're like, we need that too. So it's not just in Australia, it's all over the world that we need to help people improve the music programs one step at a time.
Oh, incredible. I can't wait to see how that goes.
Oh, me too. I can't figure out how to do it, but we're getting there.
Oh, amazing. So, Anita, 3 questions to close off the interview, which are the same for everyone. So the first question is, what advice do you have for young people looking to get into the music industry?
Oh, see, music industry is too big.
Okay.
If I talked about the music teaching industry, we'll go to that, and then the music industry. I think music teaching industry, it's actually about just as important to have a high level of music training and learning yourself.
Yep.
And then take that into your teaching. It'll make your teaching better.
Yeah.
So keep concentrating on your own music learning, not the music making necessarily, but the learning. And then also I think one of the things that's really important is, one of the big red flags for me when I was doing teacher training is when people would come in and say, I'm so passionate about music, I just want to help my students understand that or have the same passion. It's like, that's not what music education is. Music, for me, music education is about improving brain function and musical development as well as cognitive development and all those sorts of things. So you have to actually be excited about learning and teaching as excited as you are about the thing that you're learning and teaching.
Yes.
So the music industry, tricky, because there's so many different parts of it. I think from a performing musician point of view, it's continuing to understand that it's your craft. It's continuing to say it won't happen overnight. And if it does, that actually comes with some negatives as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Being able to continue to find someone who's better than you at anything. It could be the business part. It could be the advertising part. It could be the music playing part. It could be the arranging part. Find someone that's better than you and find ways to learn from them, whether it's reading a book, having a session with them, following them around.
Yes.
Not in a stalkery kind of way, but, you know, like watching what they do and actually getting as many opportunities as possible, because this stuff doesn't stop. I think a lot of students I work with, you get to 18, it's like, right, I'm ready. I'm going to fly now.
I'm good
and it's
now.
like, no. It's a really long process. And actually, as always, the process is far more important than the end point.
Yeah.
And that's where you learn and grow as a person. And when you learn and grow as a person, whatever it is you're doing will become better.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. So second question, what don't you think people know about a life in the music world, in the music industry?
What don't people know?
I mean, I feel like you've already covered a lot of things that people don't know.
I think for music teaching, I don't think people understand the hours.
Very
They
true.
go, school goes from 9 till 3, so you work from 9 till 3, and it's like, no. I do before school and I do during school. And that's the other part, is like lunchtime rehearsals in many schools are the only time they get to do it, so they don't eat.
Yeah.
Or they don't eat when everyone else eats. You know, doing things on the weekends, doing rehearsals that go into, 9 o'clock at night. The actual balance of life and the fact that it's a really difficult issue we have that, you'll just do this extra thing because you love music and you won't get paid for it. As opposed to, I am a professional who has an incredibly high level of skill and knowledge, which I can bring to this special thing, and there's a value to that, and that value has not only recognition, but it has, monetary side to it as well. Yeah. So I think the hours and also how much of themselves they put into it is very important, which is why they're the teachers who are remembered and the events that are remembered.
Yeah.
No student remembers term 3, week 4, maths, Tuesday afternoon. Like, that's not a thing.
No.
But they remember the Perth Concert Hall on a Friday night with all of their friends and all of these big, scary musicians and doing this thing that they'd never done before. That stays in memory, and that is important, and it's character building.
Yes.
Tuesday afternoon maths is not character building.
No.
But why is that more important than the thing that we give them that does build their character? And I think we struggle with our priorities sometimes and understanding what makes a human, which is in the end what we're doing.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Definitely. And finally, if you had your time over, would you do it all again?
Yes, I would not do a PhD and have a baby and work a full-time job and then a part-time job.
Oh my gosh.
At the same time. That was really dumb. And that was overreaching. But it's the way these things happen. Yeah. And I think a lot of it is the people that were there to support me, but also understanding ourselves as artists.
Yes.
And teachers are artists. Yeah. There's a beautiful book called Teaching Artistry, and it flips teaching around to say it is an art form. It shares more things as an art form than it does as a traditional profession. Yeah, and if we viewed it that way, that it has flow state in it, that it has intuition, that it has this incredible ability to react and respond, all of these things, if we viewed it that way, we would be nourished by that experience because it is artistic, not burnt out, tired, not valued, because it is a profession that we're expecting them to recognise it from us. So I think understanding that is the most important thing for me. And then, yes, I'd do it all again because there's no other way to get to where you are. Yeah. And as much as you make decisions about the future and go, I'm going to do it this way, stuff comes up. Life happens when you're planning something else. And I think it's dealing with it at the time and then trying to always keep a mind on what's the bigger picture, even when the bigger picture seems like it's just black. There's just no bigger picture. But, that's just a film across it. There's always a bigger picture behind it. So how do we keep that in mind? And saying that, when you're in the midst of the blackness, it's really, really hard to see. But
definitely,
as my mum has always said, this too will pass. Yes. And every time I'm in the black, it's like, okay, this too will pass and the light will come, and that's okay.
Oh, incredible. Thank you so much for your time.
That's all right. Thank you so much for coming to our space and seeing, the mess that we create when we work.
Oh, it's incredible. And I'll just steal some posters on the way out. Thank you, Anita.
Thank you.